My name is Chocolate Cake 50,000, and I run this game. I have a 48-minute, I believe. Last time I checked.
All right, and we have the race starting out here. So right off the bat, this is prologue. Prologue doesn't really start you with anything. You just have a jump and then you can climb the walls. It's just to kind of get you used to those controls right there. And prologue is a little bit notorious because it's actually kind of easy to die in a few different places. And it's just a little bit silly if you do. So hopefully we won't see any of that. And everybody seems to have made it through without a death. So very nice job.
You have to take the trust fall at the end and hope the crow will save you.
All right, and now we are starting at Chapter 1 here. So Chapter 1 introduces us to the main mechanic of the game, the dash. And as you can see on, well, pretty much all of the screens now, you use it a lot. Pretty much, like, I don't even think you go, like, very long ever in the entire game without using a dash. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with dashes as well. A lot of different techniques that you can use, and depending on how you use them, they can break a lot of different rooms, and there are a lot of fun skips with them.
Yeah, my motto is, if you can dash, then you should be dashing.
Pretty much, yep. So yeah, the main techniques that you'll be seeing used here are the dash cancel, which is just dashing left or right and then jumping out of that, and a hyper dash, which is dashing down left or down right and then jumping out of that. And the only difference is that a hyper dash gives you more speed but less height.
It should also be noted that Madeline has only one dash, but if you jump at the end of a sideways dash, or if you do a diagonal into the ground, or just jump at the end of a diagonal into the ground, you get to keep your dash, so you effectively have the momentum plus the other dash, which means you basically have two dashes.
Now, Benteezy there going for a bit of a spike jump there. What you do, it looks kind of like you're jumping off the spikes, but what you're actually doing is sort of doing a wall jump off of the wall that's like right beside the spikes. But I noticed Benteezy was having a little bit of trouble there with losing the dash a bunch. But yes, you can do two there. If you do it right, you can actually keep your dash, and then you only have to do one jump off of the spikes there. But yeah. Right, with that, vorpalll is having a little trouble getting up the left side there, but vorpalll has now finished the first chapter, as have everyone else. So good job to everybody there. Now on Benteezy's screen, you'll notice these fancy little space blocks. They're called dream blocks, and basically, as you can see, you dash through them and you kind of are committed to a dash direction at that point, and you just kind of get pushed through until you get out of it, and then you get your dash back after. Right there on Benteezy's screen also, Benteezy went for a bit of a risky strategy where you kind of dash up left through that dream block, and there's like 2 or 3 pixels where you can dash into it and get through. Ooh, and more of that, just taking a little death there right up trying to skip the cutscene. That's happened to me way too many times. That happens sometimes when you just, actually on a lot of cutscenes where you just think you've hit the cutscene trigger, but you're just barely outside of it, and you retry.
Yeah, the worst is when you're in Summit and you're riding the orb. You think you have enough space, but nah, you just need like another second.
All right, and Benteezy making it out of the main part of Chapter 2 and just heading into the Awake section. So almost done with Chapter 2 there for him.
Yeah, pretty interesting what Benteezy did. In the last room of the battle and fight, he actually took the left orb before the right orb, which is unusual,
yeah, most
but it worked out
right
for him.
There, yeah. And 4iSteven is just about done with the battle in chase sequence as well. Ooh, that's a painful death there. Dying at the end of that section can be very costly. And it's a little unfortunate because the really hard part is this little key switch section right here. And with that, Benteezy has also started Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is the Celestial Resort, and the main gimmick of this level is those dust bunnies there, who are moving in cycles. In pretty much every single room, there will be one that's moving in a cycle, and so Chapter 3 has a lot of cycles, and cycles are very hard to deal with in a speedrun sometimes. If you mess up a little bit in one room, your cycles can be off, and then it hurts, and you have to deal with a cycle you may have never seen before. So hopefully Benteezy can pull this off well. And 4iSteven has just finished Chapter 2. And as well, vorpalll and more of that are just finishing up in the Awake section. Or, oh, vorpalll was not quite in the Awake section, but is now. Oh, actually, both of them were just in the section before the Awake section. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between the two sometimes. Oh, I guess the one has the dream blocks. I should have remembered that.
Yeah, so the room Benteezy is in is called, I believe, Big Mess, and the interesting thing about it is that the more levels that you clear out, the easier it is to traverse. Which is a really good way of making, feels like you're making progress in this level.
And Chapter 3 has a really fun mechanic, or not mechanic, but that huge mess section that Benteezy is in. You can do any of the 3 button routes in any order you want, and clearing out any of them in any order will actually affect all of the other routes to the other buttons as well. And so sometimes, you know, you'll have a shortcut that gets that disappears if you do one section first, as opposed to if you did, you know, a different section. So it's really cool, really good design there. Ooh, more of that, just missing the key. I've done that before.
vorpalll going for the skip under the platform, gets a second try.
Ooh, Benteezy taking a couple deaths in that room. That's a bit of a hard room, especially if you die in that room at all. The death cycle on that, which is going to be different than the cycle that you get when you first enter the room, it's not a very good cycle, and so you pretty much have to, like, exit the room and re-enter to get the first room cycle, or the first time through cycle. And you'll potentially be seeing that on a few other levels as well, where some of the levels you want to go back to the previous room and come back in because it makes the cycle a lot easier to deal with.
4iSteven making their way through the big mess room to talk to Oshiro.
And vorpalll just making it to the big mess section too. It's got a pretty close race between those two there.
Alright, so we're gonna see, he goes for it, so that's, I believe, 3 wave dashes in that room?
I think it's like 4 wave dashes or hyper dashes, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the really cool rooms in Chapter 3, where you can just get across all of those platforms without having to worry about the cycle at all, but it is a very difficult room.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites to see done well.
And just there, vorpalll went for a trick that we actually didn't mention when Benteezy went for it. The spike jump, or the corner spike jump, I guess. Basically, whenever you're moving away from spikes, spikes don't actually kill you. And they did that so that you could actually pass through spikes, which actually is intentional in certain areas. But you can abuse that, actually. If you're moving towards like the corner of a wall that has that, but you're moving away from it, you can actually still wall jump off of the wall before you actually come into contact with the spikes. And so you can do a couple skips with that. I think there are 2 or 3 different instances of that in the entire run.
Yeah, it's used in the first chapter and the 3rd chapter. And I think it's also used in Reflection.
It's used in chapter...
towards the beginning.
There's one in chapter 4 as well. Some people don't go for that one though because it's a little harder because you have to do it out of a wall jump, and it's a little weirder. Yeah, also one thing about chapter 3 that we didn't mention was that most of the runners will be going for a specific route through the 3 paths. I mentioned that there were 3 different paths that you could take in any order, but there is one path that is usually pretty much faster than the other, because what am I trying to say? When you exit each of the areas, it puts you really close to Oshiro, because you have to basically talk to Oshiro after each section to open up the next one. And so the ones we end with are generally the ones that put you closest to the place where you can talk to Oshiro.
Yeah, so my favorite is after the second one, you just you hold down to fall really fast, and then just dash right, and you're right at Oshiro.
All right, now Benteezy has started and is a little bit of the ways into chapter 4, Golden Ridge. And the main gimmick of this one, there are actually, I think, 3 new mechanics, one of which is the wind, and also right there was this the spike jump in chapter 4 that I was mentioning just a second ago. But yeah, one of the mechanics is the wind, where it'll kind of push you in a certain direction unless you're doing one of the techniques like a hyper dash or a dash cancel. And then another mechanic, actually, are those moving blocks? I don't think we've seen those moving blocks either quite yet. So you just kind of step on those moving blocks and then they start moving, and you can move them depending on if there's like a button on top of them, you can move those blocks. And then the other one mechanic is these bubbles, where it's basically just an extra dash in midair, but it's in a fixed position. All right, and Steven just starting the Oshiro fight now. And more of that has just made it out of the huge mess section.
Yeah, vorpalll very close to the Oshiro fight as well, so we're seeing a pretty close race for 2nd place.
Ooh, Steven just getting a bop on the head of Oshiro there. Yeah, you can, for Oshiro, you can actually jump on Oshiro's head, and it actually gives you your dash back, so I mean, depending on how you handle the rooms, you could actually potentially use that to your benefit. And actually, if I recall correctly, one of the Chapter 3 C side requires bouncing on Oshiro's head.
Yeah, I think for the very end, you need to bounce on him or go for a dash crystal.
Ooh, a nice save there on Steven's side. Just dashing down to avoid.
A lot of quick dashes downwards there. So we're gonna start seeing Snowball on Benteezy's part. So they spawn on the same height as Madeline, so you can manipulate them, but they're quite annoying. But he's already blazed his way through.
Ooh, vorpalll missing the hyper dash there, and unfortunately lands him in some of the the dust bunnies.
Yeah, more of that. Used his dash early, but was able to save it with a really nice grab.
And with that, vorpalll has finished Chapter 3. Well done. And with that, Benteezy has entered Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is the, what's it called again? Temple something?
Air Temple?
Mirror Temple, thank you. Can't believe I forgot the name of that. But yeah, so similar to Chapter 4, there are bubbles like this, but these bubbles, instead of just being a normal dash, they actually push you in a certain direction for eternity, basically, until you hit a wall or dash out of them. Ooh, more of that, just getting a bop on Oshiro's head. Ooh, twice, 2 rooms in a row. Oh, it looks like more of that intended for that to happen on that last one there. Oh, and just barely died at the
very end there.
Yeah, that was that looks to be more of that strat. I actually really like that. Oh, and again, dude, more of that's just bopping Oshiro on the head all the time.
Little bunny foo-foo hopping through the forest, taking all the Oshiros and bopping them on the head.
Ooh, just barely dying there. More of that on that screen. And Benteezy has just entered the, I think this is technically the third, or is it the second section of Chapter 5, where we start controlling actually one of these new enemies that we've never seen before. These are called Seekers, and basically they just kind of lunge at you. Whenever they see you, they'll start dashing towards you, and you can manipulate them in very interesting ways. And so we'll probably see that on Benteezy's side. Coming up in some of the rooms real soon here, we'll be seeing some key switches. And there are a lot of interesting strategies that you can use with the Seekers, because Seekers can also activate key switches. Ooh, a little death there. But yeah, Seekers, and actually their explosions from when they respawn can activate the switches. So there are some very interesting strategies that we'll probably see here. In this room right here. Yeah, so right there, Benteezy used the Seeker to activate that bottom key switch. And more of that has made it out of Chapter 3. Well done.
Yeah, Benteezy, as people in chat have said, his tutorials for aim percent are very helpful. So you can skip the spikes on the left there by letting go of the bubble early, which is really nice.
Right, and right here, Benteezy is going to go for actually the biggest skip in the game. This jump right here. That is called Search Skip. And basically, that entire section, normally you're supposed to take a bubble through there, but you can actually skip that by just doing those, it's a dash, or a reverse dash cancel, and then doing another dash just to make it to the other side. But yeah, that skips having to get 2 keys in order to unlock a path for the bubble to get through, so it saves a couple minutes, and I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing everybody go for that. That's definitely the skip to learn, if you're going to be starting to run this game.
Yeah, I don't think I even know what the route is if you don't do that skip.
Alright, and 4iSteven is coming up on the end of Chapter 4 real quick here. He's got just a few rooms left.
Benteezy is keeping really far ahead of these Seekers.
Ooh, Benteezy getting the big jump through to the next room there. That's actually a pretty difficult one. Ooh, but having a bit of trouble in this room.
Reaching the very end.
Ooh, dancing with the Seeker. Oh! That was very close. I am actually kind of surprised that that was not a death. But very well done to Benteezy there. Alright, and 4iSteven has finished Chapter 4, just started Chapter 5. And Benteezy right there with finishing Chapter 5. I can't quite tell what the time was, but I think that was a sub 5 for Benteezy. That's actually a solid time.
Runners are not too far behind as well.
And 4iSteven getting the bubble skip there, nice. Benteezy did that one as well, where just in this room here, you're supposed to take a bubble from a couple rooms to the left. But if you do, actually there are multiple different methods that you can do. But you can actually just get a dash all the way through and just completely skip having to get the bubble. It saves actually a fair amount of time.
Yeah, it saves going 2 rooms to the left for the intended bubble.
Right, and here Benteezy is in Chapter 6. Right here we see the feathers, which are a new mechanic. They can be controlled with a couple different methods. I'm not sure which one Benteezy is using. The fastest method to use is actually with an analog stick, because they control in 360-degree motion. But if you use a D-pad, it only goes in 8 direction. And the reason that that's important is because if you turn too quickly with the feathers, you actually lose speed. And so just using a D-pad will make you lose speed just by the nature of it. Also another mechanic, those blocks, that's when you dash against them, they'll start moving in the direction opposite of which you dashed into them, sort of towards you. We like to call those the Kevin blocks. And a third new mechanic here, the bumpers there. So those are a little bit of a weird mechanic where you actually, depending on where you hit them, they'll bounce you off in a different direction. And it's a little bit precise. If you mess up a little bit, you can get bounced in a wrong direction, and usually that ends up in a death, so hopefully we won't be seeing that, but we'll see.
And Benteezy getting just a little bit tripped up there, but he makes his way through. And 4iSteven is going into the Seeker section.
Well, and right here, vorpalll has just finished Chapter 4. Well done. Ooh, more of that getting a... Ooh. Yeah, got to jump off of the snowball there, but then unfortunately took another snowball to the face. A little unfortunate. Ooh, that was a close one on Steven's side there. Just narrowly escaping the Seeker. Right here, we're going to see Benteezy go for a developer-intended skip right here. Actually, pretty much every single skip in this game is intended, but that one was more so than others. So right there, just by falling through those little gaps in the spikes, you can actually... It skips a bunch of the room. But the downside to that is that if you die late in the room, you'll actually get sent back to the start, which is different from if you did the room normally, because there's actually a checkpoint halfway through. So going for the entire full skip, it's a little bit risky. Oh, and Benteezy is just showing off there a little bit. But right here, going for battle and boost, and gets it, nice. So that right there is the largest amount of speed that we get in the game. It looks really cool, and it's really satisfying to pull off.
Yeah, vorpalll got the bubble skip.
And more of that has finished Chapter 4 now. Well done.
4iSteven coming up on the search skip.
And gets it. Nicely done.
First try there. Always like to see that.
Benteezy is in the battle and fight here. This part is a very difficult part of the entire run. There's a lot of stuff going on. Battling can either shoot lasers at you or throw some energy balls at you. And ooh, whoa, Benteezy going for the Ultra Dash strat there. So an Ultra Dash, we didn't really mention what this is. Whenever you do a Hyper Dash, and then right after you jump out of that, you do another Hyper Dash, or at least dash down left. or down whichever direction you hyperdashed in, you get a lot more speed. And if you're skilled enough, you can actually chain it together as long as you want and keep gaining speed. But there's a little bit of limitation there on humans because it's very precise to do that. That's a very advanced strategy or technique to use. All right, and vorpalll entering the Awakening section with the Seekers. And Benteezy has entered the second half of the battle and fights. This half is basically Battlein is kind of on her last stand, and she gets a lot more aggressive. She starts moving these platforms around in rooms that kind of mess with your movement a little bit. She starts shooting more stuff at you. The rooms get harder. So hopefully we'll see Benteezy not get tripped up by that.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite rooms in the game. It's just, the movement is so good, you just get to fly around and jump at Battlein.
Ooh, vorpalll bopping the Seeker on the head there. Nice. I always love strategies that just involve stuff like that, bouncing on Seekers' heads.
Yeah, using the momentum from an exploding Seeker is always really fun.
Oh, that too, yeah. And more of that is just starting the Seeker control section, just about to enter the Awakening section.
Level up. So now Benteezy has 2 dashes because she and Battlein have become friends.
And with that, clearing Chapter 6. Well done, Benteezy. And vorpalll here going for the search skip. Oh, just barely dashing in the wrong direction. It can be a little tricky to do a reverse technique. We didn't really mention what that was, but basically, whenever you're doing a hyperdash, you can actually reverse your direction. Oh, there we go. vorpalll got it. Nice. Yeah, you can reverse your direction of a hyperdash just by, while you're in the dash and still on the ground, changing directions on the D-pad and then jumping. And that's pretty much what makes search skip work. And right here, Benteezy has entered Chapter 7, which is the longest chapter in the game by far. It makes up pretty much like a third of the run, almost. And the whole idea of this is that it's basically just a kind of like a rehash of every single level, but or every single chapter, but all of the chapters are like harder now. And so there'll be one section for each chapter. That first one was the Chapter 6 section. This is the Chapter 1 section, and it'll progress up from there. And Steven has also made it to Chapter 6.
Yeah, more of that, using a strategy to get the Seeker to hit the button. Very smart.
Oh, and more of that also had manipulated the Seeker to break that one wall there, which is actually can actually save some time because it lets you actually just go straight towards the block. And also, that was a very close one. Just
yeah, Seekers are always very scary to watch.
Ooh, 4iSteven getting nice momentum off of that one block there. All right, and right here, I can already see Benteezy is going for them. So there's another advanced technique that you can use. So I mentioned that you can do hyper dashes and dash cancels and everything, but you might be thinking that, you can only do that off of the ground, but no, as you can see here, you can also actually do it out of dream blocks. There's a little bit of a window after you exit the dream block where you can do basically the inputs for a hyper dash, and you'll get the hyper dash. That isn't really useful much in Chapter 2 because usually after you hyper dash out of a block, you want to either do another dash or something, and there aren't really many places where that's possible. But here, because you have 2 dashes, you can pretty much use it everywhere you want.
Benteezy is absolutely just barreling through that section. Insane.
Ooh, more of that taking a death at the end of that room. It's unfortunately a costly one.
Poor iSteven taking the early grab, which actually makes the end of that room a lot easier to do. Because you lose a bit of momentum when leaving a feather, which can sometimes screw you up.
Right, and Benteezy is in the 1500 meter section, which I have to admit I missed seeing the hard rooms, but yeah, or the really hard rooms rather. But yeah, it's honestly one of the hardest sections in the entire game. But given how quickly he seems to have gotten through it, I'm guessing he did not have very much trouble with it. Oh, right there, that little battle in bubble there, sometimes the hitbox just doesn't seem to exist. But...
Battlin was reaching, but just couldn't quite.
Right, and vorpalll has made it out of chapter 5, I think it's chapter 6 now. What, 4iSteven going for the skips in chapter 6? Oh, but 4iSteven...
Oh, he is actually taking the backup, but he gets it first try anyways.
Yeah, so by going up and landing on that platform, you activate the checkpoint that I mentioned you would normally skip earlier. And that's just a safe strat that you can use if you're not fully confident, or even just, if you are, just it might be a good idea to take it, because dying there is very costly.
Benteezy is going for a very interesting auto-scroller skip. Saves a lot of time. Very hard to pull off.
Yeah, there are a lot of factors that play into that one, and if anything goes wrong, it sometimes can just result in a death.
So vorpalll actually ran out of feather there, but just barely made it. Very nice.
Oh, and on vorpall's screen, we actually didn't mention this, but this right here, neutral jumping up the side of the wall there, is actually a skip. You're normally supposed to take I think it's a feather over to there, but by doing a neutral wall jump, which is basically just jumping off a wall while you're not holding anything on the D-pad or control stick or anything, and you basically don't move as far away from the wall, and then you can move back towards the wall and actually gain height off of just jumping up one wall.
vorpalll actually took the same death that I always end up taking, where you just have a little bit too momentum and you just go flying into the crystals.
Ooh, Benteezy getting a very difficult strategy there. Doing a couple ultra dashes in that room to get through the moving blocks, or the dash blocks there.
So a key skip right there that saves a whole room and gets it very quickly.
Oh hey, Benteezy goes for that. That's something that I've been using a lot, and I didn't think anybody else went for it. I'm not sure if it's actually faster, but it looks cool, that's for sure. And Benteezy going for the infamous door skip and makes it. Well done.
More of that, just finishing off Mirror Temple. We'll see if 4iSteven plays it safe there, and he does, but unfortunately he still just slightly dings the crystals on the way down.
With a painful death there at the end of 2500. What is going on?
Looks like... For some reason I was thinking maybe Ben figured out a way to go through those spikes there, but I may be giving him a bit too much credit.
All right, and I do believe actually vorpalll there Actually, one thing we didn't mention about Chapter 6 is that actually the first section has a few different routes that you can take through it. There are certain paths that's, like you can either take the top path or the bottom path. And most people go through this, the same paths, but most of them are relatively similar in time length. And so depending on which one is easier for you, you might decide to go for a different one. And so vorpalll there went for different rooms than Benteezy did. Ooh, nearly near death there by from Steven, but makes it out of that one.
Yeah, big thing about Battle is just keep moving forward. Really good sense of momentum to that fight. I think it's the only fight where you actually advance upon someone as opposed to Oshiro, where you always run away.
And vorpalll getting the skip in that one room of Chapter 6 without even going for the safety save. So well done.
So what you saw vorpalll do there is actually he took in intentional death and that skips the start of the water section for that room.
Ooh, a little bit of an unfortunate death from Steven there. Was trying to beat the laser cycle, but just barely missed it, and so had to try and quick correct it, but unfortunately couldn't make it out.
Yeah, this is one of the rougher battling rooms, because it's a lot of just holding analog stick, which can be hard after playing the game for like, 30-ish minutes.
But Steven making it through the last room of battling, well done. It's also the longest room in Chapter 6, as far as I'm aware, so it's dying late on it can definitely be very costly.
Benteezy skipping the dash crystal at the end of that section there.
Alright, and Benteezy coming up on the last set of flags here. Just has 2 rooms left after this flag here.
4iSteven finishing up very nice reflection there.
Alright, and this is the last room for Benteezy. Just 5 flags on this screen. On flag 4 right now.
So you can dash here or you can jump, and it's slightly faster to do jump. So he goes for it. Yeah, unfortunately you cannot save that at the very end. No matter how hard you try, you're always gonna hit the spikes on the way down.
Yeah, flag 2 can be a very difficult one sometimes, especially, with race nerves and everything. Just navigating that flag can be a bit difficult. I mean, it's a hard flag to begin with, so. But with that, right there, with that, Benteezy has finished. With the time of, I believe that was 35:42? Yes, right there. Alright, so well done to Benteezy for winning that race. But we still have the race between Steven and moarofthat. And as well, we have vorpalll, who's on a very nice run.
Yeah, moarofthat finishing up battling, and vorpalll not too far behind.
Right, and Steven has made it to, actually is almost done with 500 meters in the last room right here. And vorpalll making it to the last room of the battle and fight. Let's see how this goes. Ooh, that's a... I haven't seen that one before. That's I actually didn't even know there were spikes up there.
You learn something new every day. I probably died to each of the spikes at least once.
And vorpalll making it out of the last room of chapters, of fight of chapter 6. Now has the double dash.
So more of that actually knew that they had enough time to go through before the laser would take effect, so very nice. vorpalll entering the site. So 1500 is one of the harder levels, so we'll see how Steven deals with it. Very nice. vorpalll is going for the first crystal skip. Gets both crystals skip. Very nice.
Alright, more of that, getting to the, ooh, almost died there. Getting crushed by the block, but just narrowly avoided that. Yeah, starting the second part of the battle and fight.
4iSteven just leaving the Frankerzy room.
Yeah, the dust bunny is in that room, sort of shaped like a dog.
Very nice waiting out the last dust bunny. That's one of the scariest parts.
Yeah, that room can be very tricky.
More of that in the final battle and room. So vorpalll actually going for a bit of a safe strat there, knocking down the block before going for the jump on it. More of that, just finishing up battle. Very nice.
Ooh, Steven almost missed the, oh. Yeah, getting this wall boost there can be... Oh, just barely missed it. Yeah, getting the wall boost there off of that tiny little section of wall there can be A little bit painful sometimes.
Yeah, he's opting to go for the safer strat second time around. Oh! Or he isn't. Nah, he redeemed himself.
And more of that entering Chapter 7 now.
Benteezy dispensing some L's in the Twitch chat.
And Steven starting the 2,500 meter section.
Vorpalll in 1500, one of the rougher sections.
Yeah, I'd personally say it's the hardest part of the entire game. Or, well, the entire part of
at least for any
percent.
percent.
Yeah.
Feels like Chapter 3 Seaside, just the first room is always... That always feels like the hardest part of the game to me. There's just so many enemies. They're so ridiculously fast.
Oh, and vorpalll making it through that room. That is one of the harder rooms, and part of what makes it hard is the fact that it is very long. And Steven getting the bubble skip there, or key skip, I guess it's called.
vorpalll, he actually skipped a key that would move the block up, instead just dashing underneath him. Into the room that kind of looks like a dog. Very nice.
Steven's starting to go for...
Yeah.
Oh yeah, door skip can be pretty tricky. Oh, there we go. First half. Oh, just barely does the other dash too early. Oh, but still going for it. And gets it this time. Nice.
Very nice stuff.
And on vorpall's screen, one thing that we didn't actually mention, but sometimes it's actually faster to go through a secret section if it leads up with, you know, the main path, and that's the case right here where the room that vorpall's in. This is actually a sort of side room that's you're supposed to get a berry in right at the end. You can see, but yeah, it's actually it's faster to go through that room. But fortunately, vorpalll taking a few deaths here. There we go. Nicely done.
Yeah, so the room that kind of looks like a dog is a strawberry room, and that room is also a strawberry room. You can do some neutral jumps to save it. Very nice by Steven.
Oh, but just unfortunately falling after that. But yes, as you can see, Steven has started the final ascent of 3,000 meters. So time will be coming up very shortly for Steven, and if I'm not mistaken, Steven's on very good pace. I'm not sure if the PB on speedrun.com is accurate enough for him, but if that is the case, then this is a very good run for him. Ooh, vorpalll just barely unable to get back on top of the block. That's an unfortunate death. Oh, and on more of that side, if you saw, you can actually, whenever there's like two dream blocks that are like cornering each other, you can actually dash through both of them with one dash, because you can, if you dash out of the corner, it'll just move right into the next dream block. So there's a nice little time saver for that one.
More of that actually opting to go above the platform, which is a strategy I don't see too often, but it worked out very well for him. Very nice, just through the eye of the needle in that room.
And vorpalll making it out of, what was that, 2,000, going into 2,500 now.
Alright, let's see if 4iSteven can make it through the crack. Okay, got a weird align, going for second try. Man, he's just getting a little bit too low and gets a third try. Very nice.
And
so it's a lot better if you have a bad align to just go for the good align.
Yeah, so if you saw on vorpall's screen, right at the start of 2500, vorpalll actually went to the left instead of to the right, because there's actually a bubble that takes you all the way to the right side. Skips a number of actually pretty difficult rooms, so it's definitely, I think it was time to be just a little bit slower, but only by like a second or two, and it's definitely a lot easier and a lot more consistent.
Very nice key skip by vorpalll there.
And more of that, making it out of 1,500. Very well done. Again, 1,500 is very difficult, so being able to make it out pretty quickly is very nice.
So more of that is actually opting to go on the right side instead of the upwards path.
Steven is just on flag 2 here, just about to hit flag 1. This looks like, provided flag 1 doesn't go very, very badly, this looks like it'll be a sub 50 for Steven.
Yeah, definitely. Sub 49.30 even.
Yeah, according to speedrun.com, I do believe Steven's PB was a 56.54 before this. That might have changed, but that was still a very good run, and if that is accurate, then that was a really big PB, so very well done to Steven.
Yeah, that was a really solid run.
And with that, Steven has won the race between Steven and moarofthat. So well done for that as well. And vorpalll making their way through 3,000 meter now.
Wow, big PB by Steven, according to Twitch chat.
Yeah, very well done to Steven for that. PBing in a race setting is very hard to do, especially, you know, with, you know, the nerves that come with, you know, a race, and just having to, you know, take whatever you roll with. You can't reset. That's very good.
Yeah, I'd say in a race environment, best thing to do is just close out the stream, just pretend like it's just a practice, no reset, and that's how you get the best.
Ooh, looks like vorpalll getting a bit of a misinput there. Ooh, and just barely missing the dash crystal. I don't know if I agree with that. That looked very close to the dash crystal.
8 boxes. Oh, so we actually did not hit the flag there.
I got it this time and unfortunately died again, but fortunately got the flag this time, so that death was fortunately not costly. And more of that starting 2500. Right, and vorpalll starting some of the longest flags of Chapter 7, actually. Flags 13 and 14 are two of the longest in the entire level, and dying late on them can be pretty hard, or pretty brutal, and they are hard rooms, so. And vorpalll getting the align on that dash very nicely.
We'll see if he goes for the neutral jump. Nah, he takes the dash crystal.
And the neutral jump there can be a little bit tricky if you don't have a good setup, so.
Oh, so more of that, what you need to do is dash, like, into the crystal or out of the crystal, but say, made his way through. Into the bubble, not the crystal. Yeah, I'd say for advice is just use the dash when it's on the ground, and that'll put the blocks in that room in a good spot.
Right, vorpalll making their way to the last few flags here. On flag 3 right now, just about to get to flag 2. Ooh, taking an early dash there, and it definitely paid off. And making it to flag 1.
It's in the home stretch.
And if I'm not mistaken, if vorpall's PB on speedrun.com is to be believed, ooh. But even with that, vorpalll should be on PB pace by quite a bit. Next time with a 55.08 for vorpalll. Very well done. And yeah, vorpall's PB on speedrun.com was listed as 58.04, so if that's the correct time, then that's another big PB there.
More of that entering flag 30. We're going to be seeing maybe sub-hour, perhaps. Downdraft section.
Oh yeah, that's one thing we actually didn't mention. So in Chapter 4 we saw wind, the introduction of wind, but the wind only ever moved in either left or right. But in Chapter 7, we get to see vertical wind, both up and down. And so the downdraft affects your gravity like a lot. It makes you like fall down very quickly, and it makes jumps do not very much. So it's a little bit actually. Oh,
yeah,
we're
just seeing some neutral jumps. I can't quite say that.
Unfortunately, neutral jumps with downdraft is it doesn't do as much as it would normally, so they're a lot harder to actually gain height with. All right, and with that, I see we've got a couple people in the Discord. If we want to get someone in for an interview. I see Steven's here.
Come on in, the water's fine.
And either of the other races are also welcome to join. Making it through flag 14 very nicely. See how flag 13 goes. Flag 13 going very nicely. A deathless one for more of that. Very nicely done. And
Yeah,
with that, we have Steven here with us.
Hey guys.
Hello, Steve.
Hey, Steven. So I hear that was a PB for you?
Yeah, that was my 4th race and my 4th PB on the races.
Oh, wow. Very nicely done.
Yeah, the first 3 were still losses, so I'm happy I finally won one.
Nice.
More, I think, is on pretty good pace too.
Yeah, I think I don't actually know what more of that's PB is. I know that what's listed on speedrun.com is not accurate for more of that. But I do believe if more of that plays well, could be a PB, potentially.
He told me before the race that he did a kind of offline run, not without recording, and it was close, or just under an hour. But his best recorded time is the hour 12.
Oh, okay.
Flag 6.
And how did you feel about that race, Steven?
I was pretty happy with it. You know, if I was, I always go for the stupid door skip for some reason. It's just fun. It's like a fun strategy to try to do. So if I was like, if it was super, like, if I was on like a really good pace, I'd probably skip it.
Yeah, door skip saves like 30 seconds. Fun fact.
Ooh, more of that getting a bit of a misinput, it looks like. There we go, making it to flag 2. Very close to the end. Ooh, using that dash early. Oh, and just barely missing the dash refresh crystal as it's spawning. That's unfortunate.
Come on, more.
Reaches flag 1. This actually could still be a sub 1.
Oh, let's go.
Provided there are no deaths here, but we'll see.
Climb.
And a 59-59!
No!
Oh! Cuts the
Nice.
sub 1 by... Oh, wait, what's...
Did he do it?
Oh, I'm actually... Oh, it was a 100.056, it looks like. Oh, just missing it by a few frames. Oh, that's a little sad, but still a very good run. Well done, more of that. I saw the cutscene skip at 59:59, but yeah, the timer keeps running for just a little bit after the screen fades.
I'm gonna have some stern words with the developers.
No, very well done to all of our racers. Very, very nicely done. I never did see if vorpalll actually did PB.
Yeah, GG everyone, great races.
Yeah, for sure. And if more of that vorpalll or Benteezy wants to come into the chat for a bit of an interview, then we'd be happy to. Happy to have you. I'm seeing vorpalll in the chat saying that you got a 52 last week, so unfortunately that was not a PB, but still a very nice run from vorpalll.
Yeah, so 3 out of 4 recorded PBs. That's pretty good.
Yeah, very good race. All right, well, Steven, is there anything else that you would like to say about the race? Do you have any other races coming up pretty soon?
I don't have any more scheduled. I think I have 3 more to do.
Well, I know that's not true because you have 1 scheduled against me, but but that's not for a couple weeks yet.
That's a long time. I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, that's still a couple weeks away. So, but yeah, none in the next little bit. That's fine. All right.
But thank you guys for the commentary, and thanks Speed Gaming for putting this up.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, we will start wrapping up here. The next run that's going to be on this channel is a Sonic Adventure 2 Battle race. It's scheduled at 10:30 EDT, though, so it'll be another hour. Or no, never mind. That's coming up right away here. So yeah, with that, we can sign out here. Thanks for having us. It was really fun to commentate that race.
Yeah, it was really fun to commentate. I really enjoyed the Mario race from just before. That was great to watch. See ya next time.
Yeah, have a good time. Have a good day, everyone, and thanks again for watching.